History's Greatest Idiots, the podcast in which we tell you stories from human history about terrible mistakes made by idiots throughout time and try and give you lessons that you can learn from so you never repeat those mistakes again. But who are we kidding? We're humans. We like making mistakes and we do it all the time. Joining me as ever is my amazing co-host, Derek. How are you doing this week? How are things?
Doing pretty good. Involved in all kinds of creative projects and shenaniganry. I don't know. I'm making up words.
Well, if you're a part of the creative process, inventing words is part of that. Shakespeare did it all the time. No one batted an eyelid. So don't worry.
Right? They think that's just the way people talked.
Yeah, exactly. No, we just don't have any other evidence. We're like, oh, this random word here, thoueth. Yeah, sure. People were probably saying that. It's not that he was a bad
Wouldn't
writer.
That'd be some shit. This whole time, which is like history was just some dude made up a language just to mess with people.
Yeah, and no one else bothered to cross-check it with any other documents. They're just like, oh, this must have been how they talked at the time. God, Shakespeare, what a genius.
Seems fair if people can sell made-up money from make-believe lands.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's Disney bucks. Anyway, so yeah, you've got a project in the works, haven't you?
I do. Trying to do a fiction podcast thing of my own where it's scripted, it's all made up and whatnot.
So cool. I did one of those many years ago. It was like 10 years ago now. But yeah, it's a lot of work to get it off the ground. So I really hope that kind of process kind of gets a bit smoother for you as time goes on. I know how long it can take.
It's been all right. I don't trust myself too much, but you know what? I was watching a video from back in the day. What does the fox say?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if somebody puts that out, then I can't possibly screw up more than that.
No, exactly. No, as long as it beats that in terms of quality of writing, I think you're fine. Really, now I've had my first week in a new job where I officially launch podcasts as a career. That's now my job. Not just researching, proofreading and stuff. I actually coach the hosts and I kind of help the clients kind of come up with structure and ideas and stuff. And yeah, it's almost like it's something I can do quite well. So yeah.
That works, dude.
I know, it's really good. In other news, we've been going for just over 2 months. And we have just hit, I didn't check the exact figure, but we've just hit 360 listens, which we've come full circle, literally, 360 listens. So I'm happy with that. The first couple of months, that's really good. Yeah, it turns out people are really digging the episode about Adolf Fredericks, the man who ate himself to death, and also Malachi Love Robinson, so...
Yeah, it's always funny when people do little harmless, innocent scams and when they eat themselves to death.
Yeah, that's what brings in the views, apparently. So I can't wait to see what happens when we discuss our next episode, which will be out this Monday, actually, what's that? The 7th, that'll be coming out tonight as we record this. So anyway, this week, we have two brand new idiots for the 10th episode of History's Greatest Idiots. We're 10 episodes deep, man. This has flown by.
It has. It seems like we just started.
It does. 2 months, 10 episodes. We're churning them out. We're like a little podcast making machine here.
You've definitely had me up my word count for my daily writing.
I'm sorry about that. That's my fault. I get too into it. I really do. So, Derek, the reason that people will be, because not only are we doing this as a podcast now, we'll be doing this as a vodcast, and people will be able to see this on YouTube. I've finally adapted my YouTube game to actually include video. They will be able to see a picture on screen, which has probably been confusing them for the first 5 minutes of this, at least. There's a picture of a paleontologist on here, because you told me that your subject, we discussed these things in advance, that your subject was a paleontologist. And I was fascinated. I didn't want to ask any more, so I've just put a picture of a paleontologist on there. So, Derek, could you please tell me about this week's idiot who is a paleontologist of sorts?
Well, first off, I'm going to be tripped out if you've got the right picture up there. That'll be pretty awesome.
Okay.
Psychic man. But I was actually thinking about this, and it came about because 28 years this month, Jurassic Park came out and graced the big screens. And
Whoa.
it was June 11th, 1993.
My God, I can remember going to see that with my parents. I was 12 when that came out.
Dude, it was amazing, and it was like dinosaur fever sweep the world afterwards. Everybody just had a renewed interest in velociraptors for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, neither did I. Like, we all knew, like, oh, it's a dinosaur film. There's going to be a T-Rex in there somewhere because if you're a kid who happens to be into dinosaurs, you learn about T-Rexes and you're like, oh my God, it's giant and vicious and scary and this is the best thing ever. Velociraptors were totally a thing that was pushed into the consciousness by Jurassic Park, and it's such a good film. It's aged so well. Maybe not the effects so much, but the story, the beats, the action, the way the film plays out, it's so good.
It is.
Also
it definitely is.
Samuel L. Jackson when he was in his 40s as well, so...
Oh, yeah. I forgot he was in the office there.
That's right, yeah. With the cigarette hanging out of his mouth and press the bypass and stuff. It was so cool to see that.
Yeah. I forgot all about that. I was focused on Newman and his thing, 'cause it's stuck in my head. But
Go on, sorry.
Sorry. I was going to just say that dinosaur is kind of a cool-ass word. But not a whole lot of people know where that name was actually coined or who did it.
No, I can't say I do either.
Well, the first instances of scholarly descriptions of what would be recognized as dinosaur bones started showing up in the late 17th century in England.
Okay.
Which I didn't know that's where it was. Automatically, you think paleontology, it's going to be in the desert somewhere, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. Just before you get into the swing of things, we do actually have a place in the UK called the Jurassic Coast, which is where they've discovered like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of fossils, and you can still walk on the beach that part of the world to this day and find like tiny little fossilized rocks and stuff. So really cool.
That's pretty sweet. You can't take them out, though, can you?
Sorry?
Can you take fossils out? You can't take the fossils
out. If you find them, who's going to stop you?
Oh. Kick ass. I'm going to go to England and steal some fossils.
Yeah, sell it to Nicolas Cage for money.
Dude, I'm going to print a map on it, and it's all over. Now I'm mixing all my movies together.
Amazing.
So in 1841, the term dinosaur was coined and actually became a thing to classify members of a specific branch of the terrible lizards that they had been digging up for a few years, a couple of centuries. And the man behind the term dinosaur was named Richard, which is a fitting name because the dude was actually kind of a dick. Sorry, laughing at my own dad jokes. You're welcome.
Oh, amazing.
So the dude that brought us that word was almost as terrible as the ancient creatures that he used the word to describe.
Wow.
He was born in Lancaster, England on July 20th of 1804.
Wow.
As one of 6 children.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, the first few decades of Dick's life were definitely less than riveting. He didn't do it too much. He's an old stuffy doctor. He goes to medical school. But when he gets an apprenticeship with a local surgeon, he starts moving more into the research side of things at the University of Edinburgh in 1825.
Nice.
He continued to work at St. Bartholomew's Hospital.
Yeah, very famous hospital.
Studied under renowned surgeon John Abernathy. Definitely not the fastest knife, but he's renowned at the time.
Okay.
It got him into the field of like biological research, and he started at the Royal College of Surgeons, but abandoned the practice to pursue the scientific research aspect of it, where he remained for the rest of his career. And in 1841, he published a report on British fossil reptiles, Volume 2. It's obviously one of those scientific journals, so it's not as catchy of a title as something I would write, but
okay,
it's descriptive.
Yeah,
but he was only 37 by the time that he coined the term,
You're right.
Damn. Just choked. I just choked on my own spit. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. These things happen. It's live, folks. So don't worry about it.
So everybody, I don't want everybody to consider me malicious or dishonest or hateful or anything like they did with Dick here. The guy was no David Attenborough, and there's tons of quotes that I can throw out by that are from his peers that are colorful and kind of mean and talk about his vindictive nature. Speaking of, some vindictive rich people that we were talking about earlier. So his research of the giant reptiles began with a love of cutting up dead animals, and he kind of had a dibs with the London Zoo at the time on bodies of deceased animals, so he could drag them out and cut them up and learn more neat stuff.
I get that that's a thing, but that's really like something about taxidermy. It freaks me out. I find it really grotesque. My now wife many years ago said she was on a day out. I was in work and she went with a friend to the second Natural History Museum. So we've got the one in the centre of London, which is really, really interesting and massive. And she went to the second one, which is in a place called Tring. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I wish I could come with you. And she sent me pictures. And she's like, you would not like it here. It is a place that was owned by the Rothschilds, and it's basically every animal he ever shot in history just shoved in this small kind of museum, and it's just dead animals on every surface, and you're like,
just
disgusting,
stuffed and looking at you.
I would fucking hate that. I'd want to burn the place down. It's grotesque. I find that stuffing of dead animals, especially after they've been hunted, really weird. Ugh. Sorry, please carry on.
Not as weird as some of the displays that we've been to out here that are actually human bodies all done up. Yeah.
That's disgusting.
I was deceived.
Oh no, that's wrong. You don't want to stare death in the eyes. I mean, if I want to go and see Lenin's grave, that's one thing, but I do not want to go and stare at some random dead person in a museum somewhere. Ugh.
No, well, and they have them all in different sections of dissection, but
do they have them posed in different? Oh,
yeah, kind of. It's very scientific though, so it's not just like, hey,
so they're not
look at these
posed in stupid positions or anything.
Oh, that would be ridiculous. I'm gonna get you.
The scientists get bored and they're, ugh, these dead people doing Boris Karloff impressions. Could you imagine? Sorry, please carry on. I'm getting sidetracked here.
I'm wandering off. I'm just getting excited with the conversation. I don't have any idea where I was with this. Oh yeah, he was cutting up big ass animals from the zoo.
Yeah, fuck.
In one case, his wife actually came home to find a giant rhinoceros cartridge taking up the foyer of their house.
This guy,
that's disturbing, but I can't imagine how unpleasant the smell had to be.
Oh yeah,
just chopping things up in the house. And I mean, it's the 1800s. It's not air conditioned or cool.
No refrigeration, nothing at all.
So by the time that he actually started getting involved in the research of dinosaurs, he'd become kind of an old curmudgeon. So if you would picture a stuffy old British doctor, biologist, scientific researcher from the 19th century, kind of with a build and appearance of the Creepshow creep, all Crypt Keeper-esque and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm already imagining an arsehole, basically, just a really vicious piece of work.
That's Dick.
Yeah.
And you mix that with reality television stars, and that's why people hated him, because he was a gossipy, credit-stealing jerk-face.
Oh, God, this guy. Hate him already. Carry on, please.
He did do some very good things. When you mentioned the Natural History Museum, those wouldn't exist without this guy. It was his bringing forward of the research and studies and the findings and sharing it with the public that was really kind of cool. So he did have some good things going for him. We do owe him a debt of gratitude for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I fucking love museums and shit like that. So thank you for that, you arsehole who leaves rhino corpses lying around the house.
Well, you remember when I said that his peers and colleagues had colorful quotes?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna get to that part here. So he liked to talk shit about his colleagues, and he
Oh,
was really
God.
public about it.
Yeah.
And he didn't hold back any of his views on his peers or his critics.
Okay.
So he was also fond of taking credit for other people's work, and he would use his influence as part of the member of the Royal Society for and his notoriety from previous work to just kind of stop other researchers' papers from getting out.
Oh no,
And
I hate that.
then he would just go in there and take credit because the publications never came out. So prove it, you know?
This guy sounds like a paleontologist version of Kanye West.
Exactly. You didn't
Just a
it.
prick, taking credit for everyone's stuff, calling himself the best. Just marry a Kardashian, you giant prick.
Yeah. Well, you know what, too? He had a feud going with Charles Darwin, so I guess in that way he's kind of like a rapper too. You get the rapper feuds going. He's got East Coast West Coast beef on paleontology,
releasing diss tracks.
He was kind of in a way,
more or less. Oh my God, we found the YouTube drama of the 19th century. This is fucking insane.
Well, and he had a beef with another dude named Gideon, where he was actually a dude that he went after kind of a lot and barred his publications specifically and stole his findings, specifically like the iguanodon.
Oh, okay.
Now, you might know the Crystal Palace dinosaurs and that.
Yeah.
That sort of representation of the iguanodon was due to Dick taking credit for Gideon's research of what he had found, and he actually totally got it wrong, because instead of thinking that they ran on 4 legs like the regular iguanas, they actually stood on 2 legs, and stuff like that would come out later and put the nail in his coffin for being
an idiot.
Yeah, well, a thief in a way. And one of his biographers described him as being a social experimenter with a penchant for sadism, addicted to controversy, and driven by arrogance and jealousy.
Oh, gosh.
So
I wonder if that's going to be put on his tombstone by the end of this story.
That would be a brilliant epitaph for him, I guess. But he was almost fanatical for his egotism and callous delight in savaging his critics, which that's a quote from Gideon, one of his beef track buddies.
Wow.
He said it was a pity that the man was so talented and so dastardly and envious. I love words like that too.
Yeah, it's so 19th century, isn't it?
We need to bring those back.
Yeah, along with answering the phone with ahoy hoy. It's like
oh, hell yeah.
Yes. That's how Alexander Graham Bell wanted it answered, so we should do that.
I agree. I mean, that guy was a dick too. But
massive.
I like ahoy hoy. It's definitely better than yeah.
Yo, what's up, bitch? That's not how I answer the phone.
Still not as good as Waza.
That will never go old. That will never go old.
Yeah. Is that a dad joke now? Is it old enough to be
considered... Yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah, that's 20 years old now as well. Shit.
Is that a boomer thing or like?
No,
I don't even know
that's like a late millennial, early Gen Xer thing.
So, okay, so
yeah, we can get away with that.
Us folks that don't know what generation we belong to.
Yeah, but it's floating in between.
So back to Dick stealing Gideon's work. He actually stole that shortly after Gideon was in a accident that left him permanently crippled.
Oof.
So the timing was extra not cool. And since Gideon was busy fighting for his life at the time, he didn't really focus on his work or getting his papers out in a timely manner. And Dick swooped in and took credit for the discovery himself. Although, like I said, he got it wrong. So I guess karma a little bit in a way.
Big time.
Even in death, Gideon was unable to escape Dick's dastardly deeds. I had to read that the way I put it out there because I was just too impressed with myself.
Also, massive high five for the Dick Dastardly work in there. That was amazing.
Good times.
Yeah.
When Mantell passed in 1852, Dick anonymously submitted a eulogy to the newspapers describing Gideon as an idiot, a bad scientist that never really accomplished anything, and yeah, but he did it anonymously, so it was okay.
Oh, and like he made a name for himself. That's interesting that he did it anonymously because he had absolutely no problem slagging people off when they were alive in public, like nothing. But because he realizes that the whole "you can't speak ill of the dead" thing would make him look really, really bad, he did it anonymously. But it's like at that point, you know what you're doing, and you know that what you're doing is wrong. So therefore, you hide yourself behind that. Like, yeah, he is a full 100% conscious of what he's doing prick. There's no two ways about it at that point.
Absolutely. So that's not even the most insane thing that happened to him, posting that up. Scientists eventually confirmed, like I said, that the iguanodon walked on all fours, and that it didn't look like a giant iguana at all.
It wasn't bipedal.
It actually ran around on two legs and was more bird-like than iguana-like, turns out. So despite the bitter feud and name-calling and plagiarism, Dick was totally laughable and wrong about that. And so, like I said, karma. It's pretty fitting since it wasn't his.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fuck him.
To be fair, though, it's been suggested that the portrayal of Dick was kind of incited by Charles Darwin and some of his other critics after he passed on, and they kind of pushed history to portray him as a vindictive, treacherous dude. But some of the discoveries that he stole and some of the ones that he made on his own were kind of completely wrong. So he wasn't super great at his job either. He's just a credit hound. But Dick retired at the age of 79, never really regaining the respect that he had early on, or the high opinions that he had from his peers. He lived to the ripe old age of 88 in 1892, which is old as hell.
That is very old for that period. My God.
I guess there's something to be said for being a dick. Maybe it keeps you young.
Made a pact with Satan to live that long.
That could be it. Very well.
You've just got to behave like an arsehole and you get 88 years.
Yeah, he had to have given him something, though.
Yeah.
Maybe he gave him Gideon. That was the accident. He
take this arsehole.
Sold somebody else's soul.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's my guy. One of history's greatest idiots, Sir Richard Owen, a biologist, comparative anatomist, paleontologist, and to many that knew him, a total dick.
So that absolutely aligns up. I feel like I vaguely heard that name because I've spent a lot of time in museums around London and up and down the country and stuff, and you get to know people like that. And it's fair to say that Darwin had an awful lot of stroke. So, he, to the point where people don't even remember the fact that Darwin worked with someone else to come up with the theory of evolution. And it's only in the last 10 years that this other person has been given the credit they deserve, and their bust is alongside Darwin's in the Natural History Museum in London. But he does sound like a dickhead to the extreme. And the fact that he had to steal credit and swoop in, and it's kind of like a really horrible Stan Lee, because Stan Lee's known for sweeping in and taking whatever credit isn't already taken. He's like, yeah, I came up with that. And it's like, no, Stan, we know that Jack Kirby did that. Just fucking sit down.
But I'm more charismatic.
I'm funny. Look at me. I've got giant glasses. So, go on. What were you going to say?
Just, I think, off the top of my head, I think I said dick 93 times in this episode so far. 94.
You're gonna be saying it a lot more with my guy as well. I swear to God. See, the thing is, it's difficult to define idiots. This guy was a prick. Like, there's no two ways about it. And actually, you combine that with the fact that he wasn't very good at his job, wasn't very successful, and the only success he found was by stealing other people's ideas and completely misinterpreting them so that they were wrong. So he's a classic idiot in that he found success through the fact that he was a paleontologist who was a glory hog. But then as soon as he was found out, like, that was it. He never made a comeback, so he clearly wasn't that much of a talent These truly talented people are able to come back from knockbacks and setbacks and stuff like that. So I think this guy is a pretty decent idiot. He definitely isn't responsible for like deaths or horrible misfortune or anything like that. But in terms of the classic definition of an idiot, and also someone who isn't like, he's obviously his own biggest fan. Like, he's overrated, but only by himself. So I'm happy to give this guy a 75.
All right.
Had he killed some of his researchers, which I suspect, if he'd like been so arrogant or lazy or whatever, it had led to the deaths of other people, like, he'd have scored higher, because when you've got like injury on your hands as well as like failure and arrogance and being a prick, then it bumps it up a notch, really, doesn't it?
I just picture him like a cartoon going, "Hey, go in that hole and grab that bone for me real quick." Yeah, here, let me get that, and then he takes it from him, kicks him back in the hole,
kicks him back in the hole, just drops a stick of dynamite in there. Just what an arsehole. Yeah, he's definitely like a 75. I feel like is a good rating for him, because he wasn't successful, but he always thought he would be. So that's quite a level of idiocy that you don't see. Now, my next guy has actually been depicted on screen in the last 5 years in an ITV drama, which starred, what's his name? Anyway, Welsh actor. He was nominated for an Oscar for Frost versus Nixon. I can't remember his name.
All I can see is the movie poster, and it's just a silhouette of a face.
Exactly, yeah. Anyway, it's gonna not Martin Sheen. His last name's Sheen. I can't remember his first name. I should do. He's a very well respected Welsh actor, and I'm Welsh, and I should know these things.
Definitely not Charlie Sheen.
No, not Charlie Sheen. No, because he's respected. However, this person is called Charlie, and the person we're talking about today is, and people from the UK will probably know this name if they are, around a certain age, because it was a huge deal in this country at the time. I'm not so sure about Americans, but this is going to be a really interesting learning experience for anyone that isn't familiar. Maybe you do know about him. It was quite an interesting moment in history, this. Major Charles Ingram was born on the 6th of August, 1963, in Shardlow, Derbyshire, the son of a retired RAF wing commander, John Ingram, and his wife, theatre set designer Susan. His father's Wellington bomber operated with the 103 Squadron from the RAF Elsham Wolds base, and had been shot down in late September 1941. He was taken a POW while 2 of his crew were killed. So his dad, survived World War II, was a POW. Eventually came back. His dad was a war hero. No two ways about it. Yeah, that will fuck you up. Ingram's parents divorced when he was young, and he spent most of his education years, that's poorly worded, boarding privately at Oswestry School in Oswestry, Shropshire, which is actually not too far from where I live, to be honest. That's like a couple of counties over. That's probably like a 45-minute drive. There was a member of he was a member of the Combined Cadet Force. I'm not sure what that is. I know about air cadets and stuff. Maybe it's a conglomeration of other cadets.
It's like in training or something?
Yeah, it's like a kind of when you're in school, you can be part of cadets, and they kind of train you in, it's a kind of like a side door into the army for people who want to be. Yeah. So, and he also completed the Duke of Edinburgh Silver Award, which, I don't think we need to know that. The majority of kids in school in this country do the Duke of Edinburgh Award. It's nothing major.
Like the President's Physical Fitness Award.
Pretty much, yeah. Only the Duke of Edinburgh Award, it's like you fuck off into the wilderness with a tent and you go camping for a few days. That's basically
so it's a merit badge.
It's like the Scouts, only endorsed by a royal and without the dodgy Scoutmasters. He went on to obtain a BSc, Bachelor of Science, in Civil Engineering from Kingston University. So this guy's got talent.
Right.
He's done the cadet thing. He's done the Duke of Edinburgh. He's got himself a degree. And in 1987, Ingram trained for the British Army at Sandhurst, which is it's like where the cream of the crop go. I think you guys have a similar thing in America. What's that place where a lot of the like the naval training thing.
Oh, like Annapolis, or
Annapolis, or that sort of thing. You know, like a major place. Sandhurst is where like all the posh, expensive kids go when they want to become army like commanders and stuff. He was commissioned as an officer in the Royal Engineers, obviously with his civil engineering degree in Bachelor of Science, and he was promoted to the rank of captain in 1990 and major in 1996. So at this point in his life, he's married, he's a major in the Royal Engineers Corps, which is really, really important because they get sent all over the world and they rebuild infrastructure and rebuild bridges, and you know, they also get involved in the action as well. You know, they're frontline repairing camps and outposts and stuff like that. So they are generally involved in the fighting, and they're all college educated, and it's quite an interesting thing. So he's a very useful guy, very successful. You'd think at this point he's doing all right, right?
Yeah. Out there building bridges right after they blow them up. He's good to go.
Yeah. You roll in, you steal everything, and then you rebuild it so that it's better.
Exactly.
So he's doing well. In 1999, Ingram was sent to Banja Luka in Bosnia for 6 months on a United Nations peacekeeping duty. So this is after the war in that region. He also graduated. This is really interesting. I don't know how he found time for this. He also graduated from Cranfield University with a master's degree in corporate management in August 2000, which, given that he was in the army and out in Bosnia and all of that stuff, how the hell did he find time to do that? A master's degree?
Mail order?
Possibly.
Is it a mail order master's degree?
What we're about to find out from this man is that Cranfield University might just be one of those fucking online websites where you click a button and get a degree. So,
that's where I went to school.
Yes, I have several master's degrees from that university. Here's where it all starts to go wrong, though. And this is where, like, you've heard all the army stuff, the engineering stuff. You're thinking, oh, where's this going? On September the 9th, 2001, Ingram became a contestant on the ITV game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh.
Okay.
Well, this took a turn.
Yeah. Following his wife, Diana, and her brother, Adrian Pollock, who had each won £32,000 as contestants on the show. So they'd done pretty well. Actually,
yeah, that's a couple levels up there.
Yeah, that's like you're getting to the point now where, like, I think that's like the first point where you can guarantee leaving with that amount. Like, if you keep going and you fall back down, you're always guaranteed 32,000. I think so.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah. So his wife and his brother-in-law were doing pretty good. Unfortunately, he's not very clever, despite having a master's degree. And a BSc, he's not very good, and we'll get to that now. In the lead up to the show, to prepare, Ingram practiced for about 20 minutes a day on a homemade fastest finger first machine. So he's just sitting there like just tapping away on this thing.
His wife appreciated it later.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest with you, I'm all right with this. It's a little bit sad that you're like training for a game show, but you know, if it gives you a competitive advantage and you can win money with it, I'm all for it. And like, if he can win the same amount as his wife, like 64 grand, that's a fair chunk of the mortgage gone right there. You know,
that's weight going. He's doing curls with his fingers.
Yeah, just like a little weight attached to the end of his finger. So Ingram got into the hot seat, but used 2 of his lifelines very early on, and he ended the day on just £4,000 with only the 50-50 lifeline remaining. The production team doubted he'd proceed much further when filming resumed, but he surprised them and everybody else by winning the jackpot of £1 million. And the question he was asked... I shit you not.
Okay.
And the question was, and I haven't got it written down here, but it was something like, what is the definition of a number followed by 1 million zeros? Now, at the time, Google wasn't a thing, but it is a Google is what it's called. And he somehow guessed that correctly, despite after like the first few questions really fucking up and only having £4,000. And they were very easy questions, those like first few, you know, when you get up to like 1,000, 2,000, whatever. It's nothing.
If you're using lifelines up that early on,
you're fucked, aren't you, really? There's no way you're making it to £1 million unless you're like some sort of like savant overnight, which is impossible. And we'll get to how he did it in a second. By the time Ingram had left the set, the show's production company, Celador, began to receive allegations of irregularities occurring within the quiz and suspended the jackpot payout to investigate the matter. At the same time, the show's presenter Chris Tarrant overheard the Ingrams had been arguing. Despite Ingram's success, moments before, Tarrant joined them in their dressing room for a champagne celebration, which, I mean, you get to... Chris Tarrant is he's like an old school radio personality and comes in, brings you champagne, £1,000,000. That's a fun night. Why the fuck are you arguing? Yeah. That's suspicious, isn't it? A little suspicious. Another member of the production team also noticed a similar thought about the couple's behaviour, that it was just off. Like, you've just won £1,000,000. You should be having sex on the green room sofa, basically, at that point. While reviewing the recording, the production team made a connection between Ingram's answers and coughs coming from one of the waiting contestants, a lecturer called Tequin Whittock, who was a regular quiz contestant and had appeared on Series 10 of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, as well as Sale of the Century, 15 to 1, The People Versus, and Brain of Britain. It's thought that Tequin Whittock, a lecturer at Pontypridd College, genuinely knew the answers himself, but he was also helped by Ingram's wife Diana. In another instance, the coughing came from Ingram's wife while she was sat in the audience on camera. She was on one of the because they cut to the audience. You know, you get a general shot of the audience, and then you'll get like, oh, who's in the audience with you today? Oh, it's my pet dog, Billy. And they'll cut to Billy, you know, sitting in the seat or whatever. And she was on hard camera the whole time, and she still went, not that one, you fucking idiot. So,
and it was coming in stereo from the guy over here. And
exactly. Yeah. So, based on this evidence, all three were accused of cheating, and the matter was handed over to the police to investigate further. Whittock and the Ingrams were eventually charged with procuring the execution of a valuable security by deception, which is the most English fucking law sentence I've ever heard in my life. There's another word for it. It's fraud. Words. Just call it fraud, you fucking losers. Anyway,
somebody was getting paid by the syllable when they were writing that word.
That's someone from a private school has been like, oh, I've got how can I get paid? I'm not quite. We're at 4:00. I want to make it to 5. Let's see. Execution of the deception of the mind of the monies and just bullshit. Following a trial at Southwark Crown Court lasting 4 weeks. That's a big fucking trial. That's like murder. That's like a murder trial. They don't go on that long.
No.
That's a crazy amount of time. Including jury deliberation, which went on for 3.5 days. What were they fucking deliberating about? Ingram, his wife, and Whittock were convicted by a majority verdict of their offences on the 7th of April 2003. Both the Ingrams and Whittock were given prison sentences suspended for 2 years. The Ingrams were sent... I know, they got away with it quite lightly, really. Although they didn't win shit. They weren't getting their money at this point.
Guess once you get embarrassed and they take your money away, it's punishment enough.
It's like, yeah, please. The Ingrams were sentenced to 18 months, suspended for 2 years, and Whittock was suspended to 12 months, suspended for 2 years. Each were fined £15,000 in order to pay £10,000 towards prosecution costs, because clearly this was a high-profile case. Not many things go to Southwark Crown Court unless they're quite a big deal, because that's like quite a major Crown Court in this country. It's not quite the Old Bailey, but it's like one of the top ones there that, you know, has very high-profile judges and stuff.
Brings the attention, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to send a message: do not fuck with ITV. Don't fuck with Chris Tarrant and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Within 2 months of the verdict and the sentence, the trial's judge ordered the Ingrams to pay an additional defence cost, which left them repaying a total of £115,000, which is that's fuck you, your life is over money right there. That's
they could always go on a game show.
They could try and cough their way through that shit. Maybe fart. Maybe try farting next time. No one's going to pick up on that. Or some other bodily function. Just vomit whenever the correct question's around. Imagine it's just syrup of ipecac just at the back of the seat and they're just taking swigs. Oh god, that's sorry. I just
grossed myself. The chain reaction that would happen.
The chain
Oh, it'd
reaction
be
in the audience.
all over.
People just start vomiting left, right, and center. Oh my god. On August the 19th, 2003, the Army Board ordered Ingram to resign his commission as a major after 16 years of service, but stated that this would not affect his pension entitlements, which I'm kind of glad about. Like, the guy, he went to Bosnia. He did, okay, he's fucked up, but don't take away his pension. You know, he's got to live on. You shouldn't punish him twice.
Yeah.
Feels
Well,
fair.
they're probably dipping into his pension with that big ass fine.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, it's an army pension. I wouldn't imagine it's, even as the Corps of Engineers, it's not going to be a massive pension. On the 19th of May 2004, the Court of Appeals denied Ingram leave to appeal against his conviction and upheld his sentence, but agreed to quash his wife's fine and prosecution costs, so that effectively the £115,000 has been slashed in half, which is
Okay.
good. That's fair enough. Like, they get it. Like, you've been punished. You're a fucking idiot. Everyone hates you. You know, that's punishment enough. On October the 5th, but he wasn't happy. He took it to the House of Lords, which is like, dude, just give up.
Wait,
all right.
He's arguing?
He's still going.
Oh,
The Court of
man.
Appeal have been like, you're not getting like it kicked out, but we'll get rid of half of the fine for you. And he's like, no, I want what I want. The House of Lords denied Ingram leave to appeal against his fine and prosecution costs. And he appealed, fuck me, I didn't even read this part. He appealed to the European Court of Human Rights, which is like, that's the highest you can go, other than like trying to find and prove the existence of God and appeal directly to him at this point. It's fucking insane.
Over half of 115,000. Did he? Was he trying to get his money back too?
And it's like,
no, I won. Damn it!
Yeah, you were found guilty and you were fined, and the fine has been reduced. How is this an impingement on your human rights, you dickhead? On October the 20th, the original trial judge reduced Ingram's defence costs order to £25,000 and Diana's defence costs order to £5,000. Ingram's defence costs were later further reduced to £5,000 on appeal. So he's gone from 115 grand to £5 fucking grand, and his wife £5 grand as well. So 10 grand. I could pay that off.
I kind of want to see if I can get a hold of this dude and have him negotiate some of my debts down for me.
I want him to come with me to the next time I have to buy a car. I might get it for free.
There you go.
Yeah.
They'll pay you.
I mean, say what you will about Charles Ingram. He's a good fucking negotiator. In 2006, journalist John Ronson, who covered the case at the time for The Guardian, wrote that he believed the Ingrams might be innocent. Ronson, who attended every day of the trial, had observed that when the word cough was mentioned, pensioners in the public gallery had coughed.
Okay. I can see it.
I can see the logic behind the thinking, but here's the thing, and this is disappointing for me. I am a massive fan of John Ronson's work. Now, maybe the name rings a bell, it may not. The whole Guardian journalist thing is not an appropriate measure of his success in this world. John Ronson has written books including Frank, The Men Who Stare at Goats, both of which have been turned into films. Frank is an amazing film with Michael Fassbender as Frank Sidebottom with the papier-mâché head that he never takes off.
Really?
It's the most insane fucking film you will ever watch. And Frank Sidebottom was a real character on like local television in the UK. The film has nothing to do with him. He died at a young age, and they raised money for him through this film. And it's got Maggie Gyllenhaal in it and Donham Gleeson, and it's one of the funniest films I've ever seen. It's fucking insane. If you ever get a chance to watch Frank, watch it. It's brilliant. And The Men Who Stare at Goats as well, with like Clooney and Ewan McGregor and what's his name? It was in Tron. Oh God, what's his name? Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, I always mix up Quaid and Jeff Bridges for some reason.
Dennis Quaid and Jeff Bridges, same era. Anyway, so those two books of John Ronson's were made into films. He's also written a book which is on a shelf behind me, actually, called The Psychopath Test. Has the best chapter of any book I've ever read. The opening chapter is brilliant. It's non-fiction, but you read it and you're like, I have to read this book right now and not stop. He's also written a book called Them, which is about conspiracy theorists, and So You've Been Publicly Shamed, which is a great title for a book. He was a Guardian columnist at the kind of the modern golden era of the Guardian, because he wrote at the same time as Charlie Brooker was their TV pundit, and Charlie Brooker went on to create, write, and direct most of Black Mirror, which is one of the best TV shows of the last 20 years. It's fucking amazing.
I was so uncomfortable that first episode.
That's
the pig thing.
The pig, yeah. And it's weird. Years later, it came out that David Cameron had done that exact thing with a dead pig's head. Yeah, oh yeah. Just type in David Cameron and pig's head. You'll get the shock of your life. Yeah, no pictures, thankfully, but just a description.
Okay, okay.
He also broke into, and this is the most interesting thing about Jon Ronson, he broke into Bohemia Grove with a pre-insanity Alex Jones. So Alex Jones of InfoWars and multiple lawsuits and no longer on any major platform because he's completely out of his tree. They both broke into Bohemian Grove at the same time and sort of blagged their way in. And they watched on as the ceremonies took place, and I think Alex Jones was surreptitiously filming it as well. And they both had completely different interpretations of the events that they'd witnessed and argued about them afterwards. Basically, Jon Ronson saw a bunch of famous, powerful old men getting drunk and pissing on trees and having a good time with no one around to bother them except like other powerful old men. Basically, that's what Jon Ronson saw. Jones saw a satanic ritual that sacrificed a real person to an owl god, which, when you watch the recording, it's clearly just a fucking dummy with like audio played over the top of it. And Alex Jones was like, oh my god, that's a real person. It's like, dude, you can see the straw. It's not a real person. If that's your definition of a real person, I really hope your wife is a real human woman.
Nope, she's silicone.
Yeah, and she's left him. Sorry, that was a cheap shot. Alex Jones. I'm sure there's some redeeming factors to him. This is the only time I've ever been disappointed by Jon Ronson, because his like career and the books he's written are amazing. I honestly recommend anyone out there to go and read Jon Ronson's books. They are very easy reads, but they are completely enthralling because he's got a very good voice. Anyway, he thought the Ingrams were innocent, so kind of lost a little respect for him because they're clearly not.
Yeah, I don't know. The theory is pretty good though. Like
if I suggestion,
touch my face, you'll touch your. Yeah, if I say something, it might make you. I don't know. If I say cough, will you cough? Or are we just not old enough?
No, and I feel like I'm not as suggestible as some of these pensioners that were in the gallery for this thing might have been. But I think it's a bit. I understand that people cough, and when you say certain words. And people mirror stuff. So like when you're talking to someone and you cross your arms and they talk back and they cross their arms. It's like human nature to mirror and respond to stuff. But this is more than just a coincidence, and we'll get into that now. James Plaskett, who appeared in the Fastest Finger first round several times before winning £250,000 in January 2006, argued that this was an example of coughs caused by an unconscious trigger, and Whittaker and others had simply coughed involuntarily upon hearing the correct answer. Whittaker was also accused of having coughed after Ingram mentioned an incorrect option to his penultimate question and swiftly followed that up with a smothered "no!" Like he actually said no.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, at that point, it's like cough, sneeze, whatever it might be. The fucker said no. So.
Yeah.
Don't be so fucking stupid. No, it's not that one, you twat. You know.
I was thinking it'd be fun to play poker with that guy.
Oh, yeah, no, he's massive down. However, Plaskett. Yeah, no, sorry, I'm in the wrong thing. In court, Ingram claimed the videotape of his appearance on Millionaire was unrepresentative of what I heard, and he continues to assert that it was unfairly manipulated. A video recording with the coughing amplified relative to other sounds, including Ingram's and Tarrant's voice. We both know editing, right? I go into the podcast afterwards, you do a bit of sound sweetening, you do some noise reduction and stuff. So it's exactly the same thing when you're editing a TV show. You edit out, even though you've mic'd the audience, you lower their levels, don't you? So that you don't hear it as prominently. You want the host and the person answering the questions to be prominent. So the audio team went back in and they changed the level so that it was at the level it would have been heard for the people sitting in the hot seats. And later they broadcast it on TV for the benefit of the jury and the benefit of the public, so they can understand what it would have been like from Chris Tarrant's position and Ingram's position when these coughs were happening. So you can hear exactly the level they would have been audible at. After the show finished filming, the sound team noticed that Tequin's timely coughs happened whenever the correct answer was read out by host Chris Tarrant. Whittock was also found to be loudly blowing his nose whenever Ingram was about to pick the wrong answer. And Ingram claims that he neither heard, listened for, encouraged, nor noticed any coughing. The prosecution alleged that of the 192 coughs that were recorded during the second night performance, so after he'd gotten to $4,000, really quite pathetically, 32 were recorded from the 10 fastest finger first contestants, and that 19 of the 32 coughs heard were from Tequin Whittock, and they were significant. So they're really delving into this. They do not want to pay him £1 million. Holy shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The prosecution asserted that the significant coughs were by Whittock when the correct answer had been spoken. During the trial, Tarrant, the host, denied hearing any coughing throughout the episode, claiming he was too busy to notice. And I understand that. Like, you're in the zone. You're hosting this huge show, which is very tense in front of a live audience. You've got a director in your ear. You've got someone just off to your left giving you a countdown of what's coming up, and like that's a lot to concentrate on. You're not going to hear like that fucker's been coughing a lot, and it's always when the right answer comes up. You're just not going to be able to hear that as the host. You got too much shit going on.
No, well, I don't even hear myself when I'm doing something like sniffling and doing all
Exactly.
that. I do that all the time.
Who takes notice of stuff like that? You know?
Yeah, not when you're doing your thing.
Yeah. Larry Whitehurst, another contestant who appeared on the show as a fastest finger first contestant on 4 occasions, was adamant that he had known the answers to Ingram's questions. He told the court that he had been able to detect a pattern of coughing that was entirely he was entirely convinced had helped Ingram. Whittock claimed, this is one of my favourite parts, Tequin Whittock, the cougher, claims to have suffered a persistent cough for his entire life, and insisted that he had a genuine cough caused by a combination of hay fever and a dust allergy, and it was only coincidence that his throat problem coincided with the right answers. Fuck off.
See, I think it would have been better if you'd have just been like, what? I had a cold.
Yeah, just like, I have a cold, I was coughing a lot. Never mind, like, I have hay fever and a dust allergy, and it just happened to coincide with the right answers. Like, that's just too... The truth resists simplicity, and there's no way that all of that is the truth. I'm sorry.
Way too much detail.
Way too much detail. During the trial, however, the jury heard evidence that once Whittock himself earned the right to sit in the hot seat, his throat problems mysteriously disappeared. So the dust had gone, and the hay fever had been cured, and he was fine in front of the cameras.
Little known fact, when you're on the hot seat, you're actually in one of those hermetically sealed bubbles, like Bubble Boy.
Bubble Boy. What's that? Chris Tarrant's there. Sorry, I can't hear you through the plexiglass. I'm sorry. Can you speak louder? Whittock also insisted that he had not known the answers to 3 of the questions he allegedly helped with. However, the police, this is amazing, the police found the answer to the 12th question regarding the artist who painted the ambassadors in a handwritten general knowledge book at Tequin Whittock's house. They raided his fucking house.
Wait, he wrote his own technical knowledge book? He was a game show guy, that's right.
Yeah, he was a master. So he had books everywhere from like just trying to build up his base of knowledge, really.
Seriously.
Yeah, it was kind of obsessed. Like, I think these people really should just focus on a career. At this point, they probably earn more money. The floor manager said that as soon as the coughing came to his notice during the recording, he decided to find out who was responsible. The loudest coughing was from Tequin Whittock in seat number 3, he said. He was talking to the person to his left when I was observing him, and then he turned towards the set and the hot seat to cough. And Whittock's response to this was, "You don't cough into someone's face." Which...
Hey, at least he's polite.
What a gentleman. What
I'm
a
still trying to figure out, How did he get involved with this, though? Like, now I'm
Yeah.
confused. And, like, this just other random contestant is like, I'm going to make this other guy win $1 million.
Yeah, so according to this, because they said by the end of because I think Ingram came on like 3/4 of the way through the show the night before, and he got to $4,000, and he'd already run out of 2 lives, and it wasn't looking so great for him. But it was the end of the show's recording, so they came back the next day. The docudrama that I saw with Michael Sheen, there he is, said that the night before, Whittock and the wife and Ingram all got together and concocted this scheme. I think that's what it went. I think that's how they got together in the hotel. They knocked it out. That was like the kind of the thing, because they're all in like a nearby hotel. They all go for the cheapest like local Holiday Inn or whatever it is, you know. So.
Right. I think I just pictured a totally different scene when you said they went back
Wife
to the hotel
swapping.
and knocked it out.
Amazing, yeah. It's like, I'll help you win $1 million if I can sleep with your wife. That suddenly becomes indecent proposal, then, doesn't it?
That's a whole different story.
That's another film that was probably made as some sort of spoof. So, yeah, Whittock is not coughing in anyone's face. What a gentleman.
Nice.
During the trial, Whittock portrayed himself as a serial quiz show loser, because he had been eliminated in round 1 of 15-1, had also failed on the People Versus, and had only been able to win an atlas on his appearance of Sale of the Century. What a fucking awful prize to win an atlas.
You want a map?
Yeah, you know, like a globe, like one of the things that you.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of that unless it's like a secret storage place for booze? Really?
Or was it made of gold or something?
Yeah, or inflatable, so you can take it in the pool with you or something like that.
Riding around on my atlas.
Yeah. That would have been the late 90s, and I've just done some research as well. The 90s was like the very last era when you could go on a game show and win the most random shit, like toys and a dining set and a fucking hot air balloon ride or something like that. Instead of like now, it's all cold hard cash. Like, there's no like, oh, you could win a cruise.
I think we should bring back more hot air balloon rides.
Hot air balloon rides. You've won a trip to Barbados, Sandals Resort, blah, blah, blah. And it's always like, what? Just give me the fucking monetary value of that, please. I've got a mortgage to pay. He'd also done poorly on the quiz shows Beat the Bong. I didn't know that was a thing. That does not sound like a game show. Yeah, that does not sound like a game show. That sounds like something you do in private. And Brain of Britain.
Produced by High Times Magazine.
Yeah. In late 2003, Ingram and his wife were charged with further fraud offences. It's getting a bit bad for them now. On the 28th of October, Ingram was found guilty at Bournemouth Crown Court of obtaining a pecuniary advantage, jeez, these fucking words, by deception, and a second charge of deception, having attempted to claim on an insurance policy after an alleged burglary at his home. Ingram had failed. Sorry. What were you going to say?
He's a bad liar.
He's really shit at this, isn't he? He's not very good at committing fraud. You should probably have stuck to being an engineer, mate. You were quite good at that. Yeah. Ingram had failed to tell Direct Line Insurance about claims he had made in the 3 years before he took out the policy in July 2001. So it's like, it's the easiest thing to check up on, dude. Just tell them. The court was told that Ingram had been a habitual claimant with Norwich Union after suffering unfortunate loss of private possessions. Christopher Parker, prosecuting, said that Ingram had switched insurers to Zurich Insurance Group in 1997 after Norwich Union reduced a burglary claim from $19,000 to $9,000, and in 2000 switched again to Direct Line. He was, oh God, these words. He has been ineluctably dishonest, Parker said. He went to Direct Line and didn't make a disclosure about his claims history because he wouldn't have been insured. It might not have started off as the most monstrous piece of villainy. What a fucking line. But yeah, this guy went to private school. He wants everyone to fucking know it. These things tend to snowball, and it all came to a sticky end when he claimed for £30,000. I think the Ingrams had serious debt problems because they're always looking for a quick buck by the sounds of it. And instead of like maybe trying to find an easier way of like maybe coming up with a payoff scheme or like talking to the people you owe money to, they're just like, we'll con our way to the money. And yeah, It's not good.
Maybe. I wonder if maybe they had like a gambling problem because
Yeah.
they clearly suck at cheating.
Yeah,
so
they are really
they had a
bad.
scheme to cheat at gambling, and now they owe the mob money.
I know. Why would you do this if you're clearly so bad at it? And this is another funny part. Staff at Direct Line were already suspicious about Ingram's £30,000 burglary claim, but decided to investigate only after reading newspaper coverage about his questionable win on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So if he hadn't have fucked around on that show, he'd have probably gotten the insurance claim, but he couldn't help himself.
He sunk himself.
Yeah, pretty much. Ingram was given a conditional discharge, so he was found guilty, but they didn't punish him at all for this, for insurance fraud, which is a big fucking deal. On the charge of fraudulently claiming £30,000 in insurance, the judge told Ingram he took into account the punishment Ingram had brought upon himself and his dire financial situation. So it's basically saying, you have been through enough, but stop being a fucking idiot. And
Right.
yeah, the judge also rejected an alternative option of community service after Ingram told a probation officer he feared other criminals would bully him. You were in the fucking army. Aren't you trained to kill people? Why are you scared of some drugged up purse snatchers? What the hell?
Yeah, you like built bridges and played with bombs and stuff. You take on a thug.
And any criminal that's getting community service in this country has not done anything too bad. Like anything above like a slightly minor offense, you are straight to prison in this country. It's crazy. So
I can imagine though that the bullying would have been really psychological because they would have just been hounding.
They would have ripped the piss out of him. And actually, if you watch video of him, even without the millionaire win, he looks like the kind of guy that, like, if he was around the wrong crowd, he would absolutely get ripped to shreds because they would just fucking lay into him and he would not be able to. He's all very jolly and happy and smiley, and he's the kind of person who would have, like, instead of saying "fuck you," we'll take it outside, or like have some sort of Spartan-like comeback, he would have just gone ho 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 and like been crying inside. So yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Bad.
He's one of life's targets, unfortunately. And also, one final amazing entry in Major Charles Ingram's life, well, former Major Charles Ingram's life. In 2010, this is fucking amazing. He lost 3 toes on his left foot in an accident involving a lawnmower. Now, when you say an accident involving a lawnmower, what you're saying is he ran over his own foot with a lawnmower, right?
I think that's what that means.
That's basically it, right? We're not fucking around. Like, nobody has an accident with a lawnmower where they lose 3 toes. Like, modern lawnmowers, even in 2010, they have, like, ways of stopping when you let go of certain elements of them. How the fuck do you chop your toes off? Is he going for another insurance claim?
It could be that, or he was playing the hokey pokey with his lawnmower flipped upside down.
Yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing you do.
In and off come the damn toes.
I mean, this guy. So that's the end of Major Charles Ingram. He has actually written books since this whole thing happened to him. Nothing to do with like, I tried to steal £1 million. It's always like army books about like war and stuff. Like, he's trying to be the next like John Grisham of army thrillers, and they haven't sold very well. But you know, he's posh and he was in the army, so therefore he'll get a publishing deal. So, what do you make of Major Charles Ingram and Mrs. Ingram and Tequin Whittock, which is a fucking amazing name?
It is an amazing name. I wanted to say something this whole time. I'm like, I kind of borrow that.
Yeah, that's a great character name. So what do you think of them then?
Again, not a whole lot of death.
Oh.
They got really lucky. They suck at cheating. Pretty
so
evidently. Bad. And he was a decent military member, I suppose. So
and he went to Bosnia for the UN, so it's like peacekeeping duties. You deserve a bit of credit for that, I guess. Yeah. That's good work. As an engineer, he seems like, it sounds like he's got a pretty unblemished army record. Like, he never went around abusing his power in the army or anything. He sounds like a pretty standard run-of-the-mill guy until he decided to try and steal £1 million through a coughing idiot.
See now the coughing right there. Thinking about now the fact that he's an engineer, couldn't they have come up with a better system that was more foolproof? Maybe like a little buzzer or something. I mean, if the Astros can come up with a good buzzer system for cheating at baseball, this guy that's an engineer or civil engineer, I guess, well, he should have done better. So because it was so stupid, the plan,
and it failed so badly, like. And although, again,
so
we
often
need to give him credit as well, getting the £115,000 fine down to 10 grand for him and his wife.
Yeah,
that's another tick in his favor. This dude can negotiate. Holy shit!
It is impressive as hell.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to just go with a straight C on this one. It's a 60. No, that's a D, a 60. See, this is why I had.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because in many ways. You know, a lot of the people that have scored very highly on this, like the kind of the psychopaths and the planet killers and the doomsday cultists and all of that, they all make massive, massive impacts on like the world. Negative almost throughout their entire lives. Like that's their impact. But it's not that it's a good thing, but they are notable. They are remembered for their negative impact. Charles Ingram, if anything, is even a failure at being an idiot because he's not even that good of an idiot. So it's in many ways he is a great idiot because he's not a great idiot. He's the kind of person who just sort of can't quite get there in life. Really sad.
You know what? 62. Yeah, I just raised it up just because of the multiple attempts and the negotiating.
Yeah, and the fucking toes with the lawnmower. What was he using a machete to cut his lawn? Was that what he was doing? He's like, oh, it's gotten too big. I'm just going to have to get out the heavy weaponry for this one. Jesus.
Get me a sling blade.
Honey, get the flamethrower. We need to napalm this grass. I wouldn't put it past him. I swear to God.
Oh, man.
So there we go.
Oof.
Major Charles Ingram, the man who tried to steal £1 million in one of the most ridiculous ways ever devised by a human mind. And oh God, who was yours again? I've forgotten his name.
Richard Dick Owens.
Dick Owens, the paleontologist who was shit at his job and stole everybody else's ideas and completely got them wrong. So
and created the name dinosaur, so he's got that going for him.
Well, there you go. Redeeming factor in his favor that he created that and also helped influence the museum movement. So we've got to give it, like, I love museums. I really do. So thank you for that, your contribution to that. And also the fact that without you, Jurassic Park might be a little bit less interesting, potentially. Who fucking cares? But yeah. I actually think those are two, because in the past, we've gone with some big name idiots and some really quite catastrophic consequences of like King John, like demolishing his empire, or the guy who pissed off Genghis Khan and got like millions of people wiped out, and the guy who killed the planet. But these two, when I think of idiots, I think of people that try something really quite stupid, failing badly, and then just not accepting that they failed badly at it. And I think these two fit that quite nicely.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are
They
classic
definitely
idiots.
are lacking the remorse.
Yeah.
Or the learning of the lesson.
Yeah, or like any sense of self-awareness, really. It's like, it's obvious to us that they fucked up and that they're clearly not very good at what they did. But because they're so pig-headed in a way, they can't accept it. So, yeah, if I would have said, if Charles Ingram, had come out and said, yeah, I'm sorry, I got away with it to an extent because I only paid like a 10 grand fine, but I did try, and who can blame me? It's £1 million. You know, I had debts, and also, here's my book that's coming out. This is how I planned it. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Wouldn't you like to buy this? If he'd done that, I'd have been really impressed with the dude. Like, own that shit.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And he'd have made his $1 million, because who wouldn't want to read that book?
That's the lesson right there.
Yeah.
He could have learned. He could have still been a millionaire.
Get ahead of the story is the thing. Everyone knows you fucked up. Read the public sentiment. Read what's going on, and own it. You know, like when George Michael, this is a really bad example, was caught in the toilet in LA with an undercover cop, and he propositioned him, and he was cruising and stuff like that. He went on TV and he went, yeah, you know, I don't think it's any secret. People have speculated about it for years. I'm gay. I get a kick out of this sort of thing, and this time it happened to be a police officer with his cock out. So, I'm sorry, but I'm gay. I'm going to enjoy that, and peace out, bitches. And that was his thing. So
that's the thing right there. That's admirable. You steer into the skid, embrace the suck, and just go on.
Just admit your faults and move on with your life. Don't let it fester and stay with you, and because that's the real lesson in these things. Like if you can make, what is it, chicken soup out of chicken shit, or whatever it is that saying is.
I'm not eating at your restaurant, sir.
I have not let the health inspectors in years. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, take a really bad situation, right? Learn from it and try and improve your life. Okay, you fucked up and, it might follow you for years, but cash in on it or use it as a learning experience or move away from it. Don't just fucking let it sit there and everyone have control over it. So there we go. What are your thoughts on this week's idiots?
Again, I had fun doing mine. Again, on this week's episode, not just on the idiots, I learned more things about how things are different where you're at, where I'm at, what hits the news and what doesn't, because I hadn't heard about this guy at all.
I know, and it's such a fascinating story as well. Like,
it would have been fun to know.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where if it were fiction, you'd be like, oh, that's an interesting concept. But no, this is all real. And that's kind of even more amazing. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I was really struggling. I was like, who should I do? And I was looking at a number of people, and then I was like, oh, maybe I want something lighter. Maybe I want someone who's really kind of stupid. Maybe. And then I was like, oh, the millionaire dude. Oh, that's amazing. He'll do nicely. So yeah, thank you, Charles Ingram. You're a perfect example of what I was looking for, a light-hearted idiot. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
It's always good when you stumble into a good idiot.
Yeah. Unless it's in a street, in which case you try and avoid them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's our show for this week. And remember, if you're ever trying to take credit for somebody else's work as a professional in the field and then you misinterpret it to make it look like the actual thing is dancing and running around and having speeches and smoking cigars, or if you decide that you want to pay off your debts by ripping off a massive game show that has got backers in the millions and has got like a crew of solicitors just waiting around to sue you into the fucking earth, maybe don't do it. Maybe learn the lessons from these two fucking idiots. So that's our show for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Do get in touch. Our social media links are in the description. I've only just remembered that because Derek has been prompting me the last couple of episodes and I've totally glossed over it. So thanks, Derek.
Good thing you remembered because I forgot this time.
We swapped places. That's amazing.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, exactly. So you can find us on Instagram and Twitter if you just search for History's Greatest Idiots, or if you actually just look in the description of this podcast episode, there will be a link in there. So please try and learn the lessons from these two idiots, and we will see you again very soon for episode 11. Until that time, Derek, would you like to say goodbye?
Make smart decisions. Bye, everybody.
Please make smart decisions. And until then, we will see you soon. Take care now. Bye.